Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers, and this morning I'm looking at a book from Ark Group. It's one of their management reports in the form of a book. It's a paperback. It's got an interesting title. It's called The Compliance Calendar Toolkit for Law Firms, and it's been written by three people, Francis Dingwall, Frank Maher and Sue Mawdsley, and the Ark Group is part of Wilmington, the company, and it's also written in association with Managing Partner. You can see the little logos on the front. It's a small book. There's a spine, there's nothing much on the back. It runs to 270 pages. There isn't any form of index at the back because it's more of a management report, and it goes month by month through a yearly cycle. Let me just show a bit more about the book itself. There's the front of it there, and then you've got the contents. There's an executive summary which I'll show in a minute. Each month is covered, and it runs through, as I say, on a cyclical basis for a year. Annual, you can see month 8, 7 and 8. And then you get to month 10, and then the end, December, month 12. The executive summary sets up a very useful point. It starts off with a bold statement. The legal profession is in uncharted territory, the subject of a bold experiment in regulation, followed by the introduction of outcomes-focused regulation in October 2011. So that's the starting off point. This is the COLP and the COFA issues, which we'll talk about in a minute. The comment about the authors, and then what you've got there, again, more of the people involved there. And then month one, we start off with month one, and it then leads into COLP month one. Now, what we're talking about here, and you just see, you've got a lot of diagrams and tables and so forth, and you've got and references, useful website links throughout, questions to address and comments that are made, looking at the various issues of compliance. Now, it's a complex book. We're in the era of compliance at the moment in a way that we never really have been before, frankly. I think a lot of people resent it. There's no question in my mind that some people consider us to be vastly over-regulated. This issue of compliance seems to be very overbearing to many people, and it's something where I think there could be a little bit of an alleviation, possibly. I mean, it could well be that some of the people who are so enraged about membership of the European Union see compliance and their over-regulation as the biggest single problem, which actually destroys business, destroys opportunity and entrepreneurship and everything else. However, we're looking at this specifically from a law firm perspective. Now, my wife and I have written a review of this book, and we've given it the title, Attention COLPs and COFAs. Here's a step-by-step guide through the new compliance landscape, because you have to have these officials who are monitoring what is going on with compliance. If you're still perplexed by the introduction of outcomes-based regulation, which I referred to earlier, that's OFR, in 2011, you're not alone. There is scarcely a firm of solicitors out there that does not find the challenges posed by this seismic change in regulation more than a little daunting. And I hope that this management report will actually help you. It is timely then that this rescue remedy, as we might call it, entitled The Compliance Calendar Toolkit for Law Firms, has just been published by Ark in association with MP, Managing Partner, and Legal Risk Solicitors. Collectively, the three authors who I've mentioned are acknowledged experts in such areas as professional regulation, professional indemnity, professional negligence, risk management, and regulatory compliance. The book is both a calendar and a toolkit aimed primarily at the two categories of compliance officers created by the new regulations. I mentioned them before. The COLPs, that's Compliance Officer for Legal Practice, and the COFAs, Compliance Officer for Finance and Administration. Quote, "The most important feature of either role," says the authors, "is the personal responsibility it carries. So they're putting the ball firmly in the court of these two functionaries, the COLP and the COFA. Within the legal landscape, therefore, that compliance officers are expected to navigate, achieving the required outcomes is mandatory. So you've got no choice about it, okay? For those who might find this challenge heart-poundingly, teeth-chatteringly scary, this new Ark book is on hand to help, and help it does. It provides step-by-step, month-by-month guidance through the intricacies of law firm regulation from month 1 to month 12, and choose whichever month you like as the start of your particular calendar. So you don't have to start with month 1, say, being January, but you can start in middle of the year or financial year or whatever you want to do. The resulting tools, that's comparison charts, timelines and to-do lists, checklists, etc., are designed to help you keep track of the required compliance duties, indicating clearly which duties are which and whose are whose, whether for COLPs or for COFAs. Certainly, examples abound of what can happen if or when lawyers attempted to take a cavalier attitude towards compliance. One chapter, for instance, is headed, "Make sure that all fee earners are aware of the dangers associated with blindly following the client's wishes." Client care is paramount, yes, yet trouble can easily follow when you do everything a client asks without asking a few questions of your own. For example, if you sell a property for a client, the money should be remitted to him or her on completion. If, as in one troublesome case, the client asks you to loan some of the monies to a friend of his, or that you can use some of the money to pay a few bills, the consequences can be dire because we know that you don't do that. In the case cited, the client has been going through an acrimonious divorce. The wife, who, as it transpired, had not been aware of the property sale, went on the warpath, accusing both client and solicitor of concealing monies from the matrimonial estate. The actions that ensued included a forensic investigation by the SRA, the Solicitors Regulatory Authority. Let me conclude, because this is an important area, because we must have this transparency. It's the wonderful word that the Blairites came up with a decade or so ago, but it is still with us, and we've got to be able to see what is going on, and that is one of the great beauties, I think, certainly of our English legal system, that we do not allow people to hide things. The concept of a trust is slightly different because that is done for a particular purpose, and equity is there as a fairness mechanism to step in. However, the basis is the transparency issue, and that really is why we've got the sort of compliance we have today, and I don't see it going away. It doesn't matter whether we're in the EU or not, and I know people blame them for that, but the fact is it's going to be here to stay for the time being. Now let me conclude by saying, in law as in life, as it should be lived, prevention ideally of unintended and unwanted consequences, as advocated by this book, is better than courting disaster by bending the rules you shouldn't, or abandoning your moral principles altogether. Obviously the bending of the rules and the abandonment of your principles, those are things that should never be a part of one's job as a lawyer. But it does happen, and that's when we find it, it has to be stopped, and that's one of the reasons why we have this particular system now in operation. It might occur to some readers that this book could be a very effective arbiter in disputes between colleagues. Whether used as a reference or as a day-to-day guide, it's eminently readable as a book, and it should be in every law firm's library, we think, and ideally in the desk drawer of every COLP and COFA. And as I say, I'm very pleased that we've got this. Obviously the Law Society produced information as well. I'll just show you the book again, just opening it in the middle. You see you've got a lot of very helpful information, questions to be addressed and our comments. Again, a lot of this may seem to be common sense, but not necessarily. It's the sort of thing with a month, for instance, they've got the COLPs monthly monitor there. This sort of information is extremely helpful, and I'm sure because it's a management tool and as a report, this is a toolkit as such, I'm sure your firm will find it very helpful. I make no apologies for the fact we have this sort of thing to deal with. I think it was inevitable that it was going to come from the old days, because I'm an older person. I remember the legal profession in a very different way from the way it operates today. But we do have all of this to face, and we have to recognise it's there. Anyway, thank you to the three authors and Ark very much for a great contribution to what we're doing. Bye bye.